to welcome you to today's Brown Bag Lunch event on identity theft. And our speaker today is Tamla Groce. She's Vice President of JPMorgan Chase. She's had more than 18 years of experience in the insurance and financial fields. And today she's going to tell us how we protect ourselves and how we can reclaim our identity if we become a victim of identity theft. So, Tammy, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
If you all have any questions, I think you probably can stop Tammy and ask her.
Yes.
Do the presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you?
Good.
Well, I am pleased to be here. Glad to partner with you guys to share this information about identity theft. And let me just ask, by show of hands, how many people have been a victim in some form or fashion of identity theft? Anyone?
Not so much as identity, but credit card, you know.
Credit card?
Yeah,
That's
just-
identity theft.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So, what was your experience?
Someone used my old check or something.
Mm-hmm.
Got it to my account.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You guys?
Credit card was used illegally.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sir?
I got notified by American Express that somebody was fraudulently using my credit card. That's right. Apparently it's skimmer.
Oh, okay. Was it off of like a gas car when you got gas or something, or
It
just?
says skimmer in the restaurant.
Oh, in a restaurant.
Waiters have skimmers they put in their pockets.
Yeah. They're getting very creative these days with what they do. Is there anybody on this side of the room that I missed?
I had my debit card stolen out of my mailbox.
Okay. All right.
Our home was burglarized and they stole some paper checks.
Mhm.
And used a bunch of them before they got caught.
Did they steal a whole book or did they take a few out?
Whole book.
Okay.
Oh, it's much similar to his debit card charge.
Okay.
I had to reverse it, but still. I
Okay.
think it was a company that, because I use Amazon a lot, I think they just somehow got the number.
Mm. Mm-hmm. How about, I think you
It's a
gentlemen?
credit card, myself.
Credit card?
The company tracked
Okay.
it on the spot. They realized what was going on. They called me up.
Right.
Right.
So you were notified
Yes.
before you even knew?
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent, yeah. Well, let me tell you that there's lots of different ways that people do this. And I'm just wondering, those of you that are familiar or know a little bit about it, does anybody know some of the common terms that they use for, I guess, doing identity theft?
Phishing is probably the.
Phishing, all right. Get you a prize for that. Look, you want nice piggy bank, yeah. Anyone else? What's skimming called? I mean, what's that mean? I haven't heard that term.
Oh, that's where they use a credit card, some type of machine and then duplicate the credit
Okay,
card.
yes, that's a good one. Okay, I'll give you a pin for that one. Not familiar with that, but I mean, not familiar with that term, but
Right.
you're right. That definitely is the way. So phishing is when you get these emails, and they did a comedy skit about it on Saturday Night Live, where they had the prince that was from Africa who sends the email because he just needs to get the money. They had all these people that were the people that were supposedly sending these emails out.
Right.
So you get these emails, and it's like somebody just needs help with putting this money in your account or doing something. And it's like, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, you know? So if there's some prince from Africa that has some money, he's probably got some other connections besides somebody he doesn't even know over email that he's reaching out to. So that's one. And so you want to be sure that if sometimes they're even more believable though. Like I remember there was a bank a long time ago that I used to bank with, and somebody had actually copied their like website. But if you were not naive, there were a lot of things that were very obvious that it wasn't from the bank, but it did have the bank's color and logo stuck on it, and it was asking information. Well, your bank is never going to send you a random email asking you for your social security number or any personal information. So that's just something to keep in mind. Another thing is interceptors, and I think that kind of sounds like what you described, where they hack into your internet correspondence or transactions and get your information that way. Another thing is dumpster diving. So dumpster diving is you get different invitations or mail and you throw it in the regular trash can instead of shredding it, and they go through your trash and get those things out. There's also some other things that folks do that are pretty I think more invasive, but kind of common criminal type things that you would think of, like stealing your wallet or your purse or burglarizing your home. Like I said, stealing your mail. Sometimes though, they don't even go through your trash. They steal your mail out of your mailbox. And they'll take credit card or bank statements, any pre-approved credit offers, telephone calling cards, tax information, anything like that. They will take that out of your mailbox. They'll also pretend to be you or your landlord or somebody like that and call for your credit report. And then they'll use the information on your credit report to go out and, you know, commit fraud. Your business or personal records at work. Sometimes there are, unfortunately, people in the workplace that's what they're doing. They're getting information that they have access to only because they work at the company. So that's another type of fraud. Or if you have people come in and do repairs in your home, you want to be sure that where you put your things are not easily accessible or, you know, out of your vision or not locked up sometimes. So, you know, somebody comes into your home and they're doing work in your bedroom and you've got all your personal information in your nightstand or something, and you leave them in there doing work. Well, all they have to do, if you've got a stack of checks, you know, a book of checks in a box, they can go and grab like the stack from the, you know, the check register from the middle, or even take a few checks out, you know, without you even probably realizing it until you get to that number of checks, and then you realize, hey, 3 checks are missing in a row, or 1 or 2 is missing out of the book. That would let you know that somebody may have been in there and did that. So you want to be sure, even in your home, if you have people come in to do work, that you have that somewhere where it's not accessible to anyone that's coming into the home.
Pardon me?
Yes.
Like credit card, like you go to a restaurant,
Uh-huh.
they take your card and go to the back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's allowed. Now in Brazil, they come with the machine to your table.
Oh, wow.
And they scan it in front of you and give it to you. They never take it. But in the US, they allow this guy to go. And twice I got hit, specifically one card
Right.
that I use for restaurants.
Right.
It's like an easy meal. Once they go to the back, they can write it down.
Yeah, but see, the bad thing is, even I had a friend who was sitting in a very nice restaurant at the bar area, actually gave her card to the person sitting right there in front of him. He used her card the way he was supposed to for her transaction, but somehow kept her information. So, I mean, there's all kinds, you don't know, he was right in front of her, and the way that she caught it, and you know, different people have different tricks. My friend always zeroes out. Like, so if she has a transaction that's $36.55, it's gonna be $37. She always goes up to the next whatever. So when it came through, he didn't know that. And so the transactions were, you know, they had change on them. So she knew right away when she looked at her account, hey, I didn't do this. And so she was able to call and come to find out he had done this to several people. So they, you know, when they got the call at the restaurant, they weren't, you know, surprised about it. But she wouldn't have caught it, you know, if she didn't do that, because she eats there all the time. She actually talked to this bartender when she would go in or whatever. So, you know, it could happen. I mean, yes, that's a great safeguard, but it could happen. There's so many things.
On the 3 digits at the back, I put a sticker on.
Okay,
I don't leave it open.
that's a good idea.
Because they don't need those 3 numbers.
Right.
For their work.
Right.
So I have a little sticker.
So you just need them to know it when you have to give it out. That's a very smart. It's so funny when I come to these, I actually get people like him who will give me, you know, great information, and then I can pass that on to other people. So thank you for sharing that. The other thing is that they buy your information from inside sources. So like I said, at your workplace, or even, unfortunately, somebody at Amazon could be selling, you know, you just never ever know, unfortunately. So that's why you have to kind of take a proactive role in monitoring your accounts and everything. The next thing is when they do pre-texting, this is like calling a financial institute and saying, or institution, and saying that they're you, asking for customer service, and then trying to get personal information, or they simply change the mailing address. So now all your stuff is coming to them. And then what is unfortunate is a lot of times it will take some time before you realize it, especially if, you know, you've gone paperless. If they change the mailing address and say, well, now I'd like to get my billing statement to me, you know, then They can maybe even go in and change it to where you're not getting an online statement. So there's lots of different things that they can do. And you may not realize it because you're not expecting to get a bill. You're not charging the card, so you may not be going and looking at your statement, and all of a sudden charges are racking up that you were not aware of. They also do a lot of, with opening cellular accounts and then racking up a lot of international calls. Bank accounts, and then they write bad checks. They even will file for bankruptcy under your name, and then so they can avoid paying bad debt that they built up in your name, and then you go and find out that you have a bankruptcy and you never filed bankruptcy. Counterfeit checks or debit cards to drain your bank account. And then another thing is that they'll actually buy cars in your name. So how do you prevent identity theft? So anybody have any ideas? Any ideas of how you might? Yes, sir?
Use nothing but cash.
Nothing but cash, all right.
The bank doesn't like
That's
that.
a good one. Nothing but cash. Here you go. So one thing that's kind of along the lines of that is carry only what you need. So a lot of us, and I'm guilty, will carry every credit card that we have in our wallet. I used to also be guilty of, I don't even know why I was doing, I had my Social Security card in my wallet.
Oh.
Yeah, Social Security card, all my credit cards, you know, every form of ID, I had it all in my wallet. Well, if I had ever had my purse stolen, they would have just had the easiest time doing everything they needed to do. The other thing is don't put outgoing mail in your mailbox. And I know a lot of us like the convenience of sticking the mail right there and the postman comes and takes it. But guess what? If you do it the night before and the postman is not the one that comes and takes it, that mail now is in the hands of somebody that you didn't intend for it, you know, to have it. Cancel any credit cards that you no longer use. And a lot of people ask me questions, well, I've got a lot of credit with them and I've been with them a long time. But if you're not using the card and you don't have any intention of using it, it probably means that you're not paying attention to transactions on it. So unless you're going to keep the card and go in and look at that account on a regular basis, it's probably a good idea to close it because it's just waiting for fraud to happen on that account. And then if you lose or have any cards stolen, you want to report that immediately. And you want to call your credit card issuer. And basically what you want to do is close that account and have them reissue new cards to replace them. So, and then if you have any automatic payments, just remember to update those. That's probably the biggest challenge people have. They want to hold on to their old credit card account or their old checking account because they have, you know, auto payments set up. And I know for Chase, if you ever have this occur, we have personal bankers. That's who will be joining me at some point. I'm sure she'll be here, or he, I'm not sure. It's the branch from Greenway is coming over. But they have personal bankers, and basically the personal banker is there to make your life easier. So with Chase, your personal banker could help you get all of that switched over. You know, if you needed to get your auto drafts changed because you had to get a new account. And a lot of people are like, but I've had this account forever. And we're like, yes, but now the other person has it too. You know, so they're gonna have access to all your information, and if you keep that account, we had one company that they really wanted to keep their account. Well, they were hit multiple times with fraud because they wouldn't let go of that account and the person still had access to it. Another thing is, let me ask, what should or should not be on your personal checks?
TDL.
Should
Your
or
Social
should?
Security or your TDL. Both.
Okay, so you answered first, so you get a hat this time. You should not have your Texas driver's license number, phone of your Social Security card. Social Security. All kinds of personal information you wouldn't think people would print. People want to print on their cards. So please don't put, personal information like that. You can write it on there if you need to. They say don't even put your telephone number on there. And then you also want to report lost or stolen checks immediately. You can tell, like with Chase, you can say, I'm missing check 101 to 104, and they can put a block on those checks so when somebody tries to put those through, they will not go through. Also, you want to make sure when you get your new checks that you always kind of flip through them and make sure that they're following in the correct order to make sure that none have been taken in transit, that nothing's been tampered with.
Forgive me.
Yes, sir.
Do people still use checks?
That's funny. We actually, as part of our offer, when we go out and talk to folks, and I'll share some information with y'all about that later, we offer free checks, the first order of checks free. And I always tell people that first order of checks is probably all you're going to need, because people hardly ever use checks anyway. So if you get a free box of checks, that's going to last you maybe the lifetime of the account, but at least, if not for a very long time.
In fact, in 2018, Britain is going to be no checks.
Really?
As a country, they're not having checks.
Really?
2018, they've already set it in motion, and that is the way it's
Wow.
going to be. England will not have checks.
So you know what I write my check for? I write my check to my church, my tithe check. That's probably like the only check. When I flip through my,
Yeah.
and to get my hair done. Those are when I look through it, those are the only two things that I'm writing checks for consistently. Everything else is pretty much automatic, or I use my debit card. Yep, you're right. So, and that will help, because that's one of the things why so many companies are moving to mandatory direct deposit. Because as a company, they're also at risk every time their account number is out there. So every time they write do a paycheck and it's their account number out there, then there's the potential for fraud as a company. So,
but forgive me,
yes, sir.
everything you mentioned
Mhm.
up to now, in terms of percentages, would you not say mass scale hacking is much bigger play?
The hacking.
Hacking of accounts and credit cards through retailers or banks, like some banks.
Yeah, and I'm going to get to that in just a second about
in terms of scale of size.
Oh yeah.
which-
It's funny. There's a commercial that talks about bank robberies versus how much money is stolen in bank robberies. It tells how many millions or whatever, and identity theft is way more.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely because of the ability to do it over the computer is
In
definitely.
fact, gun-based bank robbery is almost nothing compared to
Right.
electronic bank robbery.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So one thing you want to do is always be alert to telephone scams. So if you have people calling you, asking you for personal information, again, probably not going to be your bank doing that. So one thing, if you didn't initiate the call, that's one way to know you shouldn't be giving your information. Or sometimes you can take the person's number and say, can I call you back? A lot of times if they're resistant to that, that's a clue right there that they're not legitimate. Especially like I had somebody call me even, and they were telling me about this great prize that I had won, and they wanted my information, and I said, well, I need your number to call you back to see. And he said, well, you got connected with me because you use such and such, or you're a customer of such and such. And I said, well, that's all well and good that you know that information, but if that's the case, I should be able to call you back and speak with you. And he started getting like irate with me. And I said, okay, that's fine. I said, thank you, sir. Well, don't you want this prize? I said, well, clearly if I can't call you back, something's not upfront about this offer, so I'm gonna have to pass. And he hung up on me. So you just never know. And it sounded wonderful, but that's how they sound. That's how they get you, because they sound so great.
But you were too nice.
Huh?
You were too nice.
I was too nice?
I would never be that.
You would? Well, I am in the sales industry, so I do try to be understanding of people that have to, talk about something that they're offering in service. But yeah, I don't, I'm nice to a point. So also, a lot of people don't realize this, but your credit card receipts, don't throw those away in just a regular trash can, because there's information on there that they could also use to access your account. And then your PIN numbers. And I think, like you said, that was an excellent idea to cover that number up on the back. But you definitely want to keep your PIN number private, and you don't want to make it something really obvious either. A lot of people, try to make something that they can remember, but sometimes if it's something you can remember, that means it's something that somebody else could easily figure out about you. So be careful of that. Discard your mail appropriately. So if you get an offer to open up a credit card, or if you have statements, you need to be shredding those. Burn them, I don't know, don't just throw them in a trash can and hope nobody sees them, because in some of these offers it doesn't require a lot of information, especially if you've got good credit. If you respond that you want to open an account, it doesn't take a lot of personal information to get that account started. The other thing is keep your information private. You don't want to give out your checking account number, credit card numbers over the phone, like I said, unless you initiate the call. Keep track of your bills. So know what should be on what account, kind of try to stay abreast of what you're spending so that if anything odd comes through, you're aware of it. And then review your credit report from time to time. And I think you can do it like once a year. And there's 3 major credit reporting bureaus. And one thing I learned from one of the people I was presenting to recently, this person had identity theft perpetrated against them. And so what they do is they request their credit report from one one agency this quarter, and then the next quarter they do the other one, and then the next quarter. So they get, it's different ones, so there may be a little bit of difference, but they're basically getting a check every quarter, and they're doing it for free. So I thought that was a pretty smart idea, and that way you can kind of keep abreast of what's going on. Another thing is protect your online identity. So with Chase, we have a website that's 128-bit encrypted. Any IT folks in the room? No? Okay, you? So do you know what that means?
Yep.
Okay, because I just know it means it's really, really safe, but you may have a better explanation. That's a good explanation? Okay, so that's 128-bit encrypted, because what you want to do is you don't want to use a website where your information is not safe. And two ways actually that you can tell if it's a safe website, you want to look for if it's a HTTP, if there's an S at the end of that, that means it's a secure website, or that padlock. If you don't see either of those things, you do not want to put your personal information on that site. And what I recommend, and probably other banks do this, but I know for Chase, we really recommend that if you're going to do online bill payment, you do it through your bank account, through your Chase online. Because then what happens is that vendor does not get your checking account number or your credit card number. They get information from Chase. It's in your name, Tamla Groce, is paying her bill, but none of my personal account information is sent to them. And the great thing about Chase's online bill pay is that if you are using even a vendor that doesn't have an online presence, Chase will mail a cashier's check on your behalf. So again, you're not having to write a check if you don't want to, because they'll do it and they'll put a stamp on it and mail it for you and everything. So I think that's a really great feature with online bill pay, and that can kind of help you have your whole thing, really going automatically. Not automatically where you don't get to decide when it's going, but where it's all set up on Chase Online. So that's something we recommend. Also, one of the things I can tell you about Chase, kind of like some of you have shared, is I've had people to, I guess, be using my card or try to use my card, and I'll get a phone call from Chase that says, are you in California? And it's like, no, I wish I was, but no, I'm right here at my desk working or whatever. And so that way they're like, okay, well, somebody just tried to use your card, we're going to deny that. And they'll catch it beforehand. And for the banks, it's a huge expense. I mean, you're talking about how much, like you said, it's a bigger robbery than somebody coming in with a gun, because people are doing that. So the banks are really trying to be proactive and catch it before it happens, because we'd much rather stop it than, we're going to make you whole if somebody's perpetrating identity theft against you using your credit card. So we would like to stop it before it happens. So sometimes I had one person tell me in a presentation that they were out on Black Friday, and they had a card that they pretty much only used for business. It was a personal card, but they used it at like Office Depot, Staples, and things like that. Well, they were out at Best Buy buying a big screen TV, and I think they actually were buying 2 of them because it was such a good deal. Well, Chase called them. They didn't recognize the number, so they didn't answer. And so they didn't get to make the charge, but they said, actually I was not upset. They said it kind of put me in a bad place. I had to go and pull the money out to make it the transaction, because after that, of course, the company was like, well, we don't know if we should take a check from you if your debit card is not going through. But they said they appreciate it, because basically Chase was saying, if somebody else would have been out there with their card, they would have bought two TVs and been gone. So I had another person tell me, yeah, they called me, but I answered and I said, yes, it's me. And they said, okay, and the transaction went through.
I think on a recommendation, if you want, if you can take this back, I also got a call on this fraud issue.
Right.
And I didn't answer. So they called the second time I answered. Because if they called with the 800 number, that's kind of not interested.
Right.
Kind of thing. But they may want to call with a non-800 number.
Right.
800 numbers are marketing calls and you just
Right.
don't want to deal with it.
Right.
So my suggestion is to tell them, look, if you guys are going to call people back about fraud potentials,
Right.
why don't you use a local area number of some sort and not 800 because people
Was it
are-
your credit card or your checking account?
No, this is my credit card.
Okay, because I think I got one on my debit card, and for some reason, I think it was not an 800 number. You know what I mean? So I answered it because it was not, but I
Yeah,
wonder if for the credit card,
Yeah.
if they do 800, but if I'm not mistaken, it was my debit card, my check card, and it was not an 800 number, but that is a good
Yeah,
point. It is
yeah.
hard to know, because I know a lot of us, when we see an 800 number, we automatically think somebody's trying to sell me something.
Yeah, exactly.
Did they leave a message at all? Did they
No,
say
they-
anything?
nothing. They just-
And I think part of the reason that they don't sometimes leave a message is if somebody's gotten a hold of your phone,
Yes, exactly.
then they call right back. But I feel like they ask you enough personal information,
Sure.
usually that, the person can't just know it right off the bat. They have some identifying questions, at least for the check card, that only I would have known, some of the answers to those. They weren't like your social security number. It was something more specific than that. So there's about 17 quick steps I'm going to run through with you on what to do if you need to recover from identity theft. So if you've done all these other things, but somehow it still happened to you, one of the things you want to do is call the credit bureaus, okay? And this is a big prize here. Can anybody tell me what the 3 credit bureaus are?
Equifax, Experian.
Wait, now you've already won. Wait a minute. You give somebody another
Okay.
chance. Anybody else? What are the 3? Okay, you got it. So, look. You have a water bottle. I want to share the wealth a little bit. If you could be up here teaching the class, huh?
Having fun.
So yes, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And what I have for you guys, when you leave, I want you to take one of these handouts. It's got the phone numbers for the different things I'm going to share with you, and it's also got kind of an overview of what we talked about for your reference. But I also have this presentation. I've got about 20 copies of it if anybody's interested in picking one up, because it's got the phone numbers and addresses here. It's also got some sample things in here that I'm going to talk with you about. So if anybody, you want one of those?
No, I was going to ask you, can we get an electronic copy to post on the web?
Well, that's the funny thing. We have been trying to send, I've been trying to send this, how many months, Rosin? We've been trying to, every time I send it, it's, for some reason, it seems to be a really large presentation. And
We can
you're,
work something out with an FTP or something.
okay, if you can get it, because for some reason it seems to be large, and it's
It's beyond the size of email.
of what you guys, because I think,
What you do is use a service called yousendit.com. They love you large files. And
okay, all
It's
right.
called
We have an
yousendit.com.
FTP site we can use for our.
Okay, well, I'll talk with you after, and I'll definitely get it to you that way, because we wanted to make this available to you, and we couldn't get it because it's a zipped file, and so every time I tried to send it, it wouldn't go through. So yes, we'll definitely do that. You can request that a fraud alert be put on your account, and that means it lets creditors know if somebody comes in to set an account that there's some things going on with your account and it may not be totally up to date. You can also include a victim state. Yes, sir.
Is that with the credit bureaus that you can request a fraud alert, or who you request it from?
With the credit bureau. Yep. You ask that they place a fraud alert in your file.
So they only do it for 30 days at a time.
Oh, really? Okay, so that's something that I guess that'll be an ongoing thing. But also the victim statement, I think, stays longer than that. That's the next thing. If you put a victim statement in there, basically it asks that anytime somebody tries to open up a credit account, that you are called. And one of my friends actually has this on hers because she's been the victim of identity theft. And so anytime somebody tries to open up an account, they call her and she can say, yeah, no, that's not me. So.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
If you call one credit bureau for a fraud alert, do they have a cross system for the
You
others?
probably need to call every one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. So also, again, like we talked about, ask for copies of your credit report. So you could ask for all three of them and then wait, you know, maybe pay for one, or you can do like I said and kind of space them out. You want to review them carefully. So you want to make sure no accounts have been opened, no unauthorized charges have been made, or any other types of inaccuracies. If they are present, you want to contact all three and begin a dispute process. Then, like I said, do periodic reviews. You also want to contact your local police. So I know another time somebody had done something on my account and it was not caught. I mean, the bank caught it, but the transaction had already occurred. This is with another account that I have, not at Chase, a long time ago. But anyway, basically I had to file a report. And that way it showed that it really was theft. It wasn't me saying, hey, I just don't want to pay that bill. So that often helps substantiate that you've actually filed a police report.
Tammy, what
Yes.
is the dispute process
As far as, so,
You just said if it does occur, you can dispute it.
With the,
yeah, so basically you call your creditor, the creditor and let them know, the credit agencies and let them know, file a police report. So that's kind of the process. Yes, ma'am. Also, there's a FTC identity or Federal Trade Commission identity theft hotline. And I'm going to give you this, but it's 877 ID theft. It's very basic. And they'll put your information into a secure consumer fraud database, and then they'll share it with other law enforcement agencies when it's appropriate. Then also, like we said earlier, check your mail carefully. So if you receive statements for accounts you don't have, don't assume that somebody just got the wrong name. You want to contact the creditor because they may have opened an account in your name. Then if you don't receive statements, like I said, for anything, investment accounts, banking accounts, credit, contact the company immediately because again, they could have put a change of address in on your behalf and now your mail's going somewhere else. Or if you don't receive mail that you usually receive, contact the post office. So like I said, if you're paperless, a lot of your bills may not come, but a good clue is if you stop receiving mail altogether, then maybe they've gone to the post office and actually filed a change of address. And always review your accounts and just check the transactions that are on there. And again, if you find any problems, then pay attention going forward in addition to contacting someone. If there's other types of things that we don't think about, like utility bills. People go and set up utilities in your name, gas, electricity, that type of thing. So you want to pay attention to that. And a lot of times, if you find something like that, you can call that company's security or fraud department. So like TXU or somewhere like that, ask for the security or the fraud department. And then follow up with a letter. Credit card companies require that you contact them in writing. So you always, even if you call, you still want to follow up in writing. And in here is a sample dispute letter that we'll have, I guess, on your website eventually. But there's a sample dispute letter in here. Close accounts that have been tampered with, get new PINs or passwords, and like I said before, avoid using anything that's kind of common like your social security number or your birthday. If your accounts have been tampered with, your checking or savings, you definitely want to change those and open up a new account. Place a stop payment, and then with checks, you want to use Telecheck or Certegy. Those are the two like check reporting companies. So you want to notify them, and in here, and I think on there too, there's phone numbers for those. But I'll just tell you, Telecheck is 800-710-9898, and Certegy is 800-437-5120. And that way they'll notify retailers to put that information in their database that you've had checks stolen. You also want to review your investment accounts. If you notice any type of irregularities on your investment accounts, then you want to call the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. And that number is 800-732-0330 or 800-SEC-0330. Your telephone service provider, like I said, people set up those accounts, so you want to contact them immediately and cancel your account. And if you have trouble getting them to remove fraudulent charges, you will contact the Public Utilities Commission, and that, or the FCC for long distance service, and that would be for local service providers, Public Utilities Commission. And you can probably Google them or look them up in the phone book, but those, you definitely want to reach out to them if you're having any trouble getting charges that are fraudulent removed. And sometimes I would bet if you say that's who you're going to contact, you might get a little bit more help getting things removed when you let them know if I don't get this done, then my next call is to the Public Utilities Commission. Also, when I mentioned when people change their your mailing address, then if anybody changes your mailing address, that's actually a crime. So you want to report that to the postal inspector, and they have a. You can go online to find out who your local post office, who your postal inspector is, or who you need to contact at usps.gov/website. Well, this will all be. I don't know if y'all want me to give y'all all that, but. And then Social Security, if you think somebody's been tampering with your Social Security, and this is what's really sad to me, which you probably want to check on too. If you have children that are minors, you may want to check their accounts, because that's another thing. It's not in my presentation, but that's something that I've found out that's common. People stealing minors' Social Security numbers because you're not checking their credit report. And then all of a sudden your child goes off to college or wherever, and they try to open a checking account, or they try to do something and they find out that they've got a closed account with Chase. And they're like, you're like, we never opened an account with Chase for this minor child. And they're like, oh yeah, we've got, or it's credit cards or even utilities. So you want to sometimes, maybe once a year run a credit report on your kids just to make sure that nobody's gotten a hold of their Social Security number. Also contact your local Department of Motor Vehicles. Sometimes people will go in and get a driver's license or ID in your name. One of the gentlemen at a presentation I did not too long ago somebody had stolen his wallet. This guy was a criminal. It was like a what do you call it when people burglar, not just a burglar, but robbery, going in and holding people up. He actually found he dropped his wallet, and this guy must have found it in a mall where he had just done a crime. And so he went in, took his information, and got a driver's license in his name. And so now this gentleman has to carry a letter around saying, I am not, I'm legitimately this person. That was somebody else that found I do not have a tattoo on this arm going around, because this person is a criminal. So whenever, if he gets pulled over and they think that he's that criminal, he's got warrants out. So he says, okay, I'm not who you think I am. When you run my driver's license, it's going to come up that I'm, such and such, but I'm not. I've got a letter in my wallet if you want to take it out, and it tells you. But imagine having to go through that every time. If you get stopped for a speeding ticket, you got to worry about this happening. So, unfortunately, he has taken the proper actions, and he happens to be a Chase customer. He said Chase has been very good in working with him, but I really feel for him and hope that doesn't happen to any of us. So the other thing, as I mentioned, in this handout, the quick contacts for Securities and Exchange Commission, FTC, the credit bureaus, and the telecheck and Social Security are all on here, as well as highlights of some of the things I mentioned. And then in here, in addition to those contacts, there are sample letters. So you're asking about the dispute process. There's a sample dispute letter that you would send to the credit bureau. And there's also one for the credit card company. And then there's a great action taken worksheet. So this helps you to kind of track what you've done, who you've contacted, and when, which I really like, because it's something that it's a pain. You don't really want to think about it, but you need to be really abreast of what you've done, because some of it falls, unfortunately, we're the victims, but some of it falls on us to keep track of it. Nobody else is going to do it if we don't. So we've got to know, and you can kind of stay on top of the credit card companies when you keep track of when you last contacted them and if you've gotten a response or anything like that. So I know I've shared a lot of information with you. I tried to stay within my time frame, and I think I've done well, but I wanted to make sure, does anyone have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
From your experience working with identity theft victims,
Mhm.
how long does it take someone to restore their identity,
Unfortunately,
if that's possible?
I was gonna say, unfortunately, there are things, sometimes it can be very quickly if it's just a credit card deal where you know, somebody went in and used your card, you shut it down and start another account. Other times, it's like this gentleman, it's an ongoing thing. I mean,
Driver's license.
he
is
will
a
have to
nightmare.
deal with that, you know, until that guy is maybe in jail for a very long time, or, you know. So it just depends on what type of identity theft you've been the victim of, you know, unfortunately. So, anyone else have any questions? Yes.
Tamla,
Mm-hmm.
do you think it's worthwhile to pay a monthly charge? Like, there are these services like for $8.99.
Right.
You know, will guarantee your theft is never stolen.
So what I would recommend is that you talk to your bank first before you go out and pay for one of those services, because your bank does a certain amount of things for you just by you being their customer. Now, if the bank also offers some things that you can pay for just like those companies, so you might end up getting more bang for your buck by going through your bank, because you're going to pay for something over and above what the bank does when you buy it from the bank. Whereas when you go through those different types of companies, depending on who they are, you may pay for something that you're getting for free from your bank. And that's not just Chase, I would say with any bank. But I know with Chase, certain things you get for free, and then we do have something else that we offer. The other thing, you know, I would just say, if you're going to use somebody for that, you really want to take them through the Better Business Bureau, or, you know, whatever ways that you can check that they're valid, because what you wouldn't want to happen is for you to go in and have them, you know, have identity theft, you know, and they've got access to everything now. So that's why I say sometimes it's better to use your bank, but you may have like credit cards that are not through the bank, and you may want to think about something like that. But I just would be very careful in your selection of the service you use. So, now let me ask by show of hands, how many folks are actually Chase customers? Okay. Well, thank you guys for your business. Here's a chance to win a few more prizes. Somebody in here, tell me something that you actually like about Chase that already banks with us. Yes, ma'am.
Well, they send alerts, like if, I'm not saying I'll check on my husband, but
Uh-huh.
if he does a transaction, if either of us do a transaction over a certain, like over $300,
Right.
it sends us an email.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, actually, I think it's a text message.
Okay.
That just said, so, you know, this happened, or, which is kind of nice.
Yep.
You know.
So that's a great feature. Get a water bottle for that.
Thank you.
So the alert is a really excellent way to use Chase. We can do alerts for almost anything you can think of. You know, if your balance drops below a certain amount, if you have transactions over a certain amount, or if you have transactions going through, and it is a great way, you know, like you said, not that you're checking up on the other person, but you don't want to be somewhere where you decide to make an impulse buy. You know, say you say, I'm going to buy this $500 whatever, and then your spouse is saying, I'm going to buy this $500 whatever, and then all of a sudden there's $1,000 out of your account, and y'all didn't talk about it because you were doing a quick impulse buy, and you're going to tell him later, and he's doing the same thing. So it's a good way for you to kind of keep track of things like that. Another great thing about the alerts is that a lot of folks use it if their account drops below a certain amount. So say you say, if my account drops below $200, then I want to get a message. Okay, if you have a savings account with Chase, what'll happen is, in addition to getting that message, it'll also say in the text, your checking balance is $195, your savings balance is $1,000. Would you like to make a transfer? At that time, you have a limited time to respond to that text message, but you can do T space 200 and hit reply, and it'll go. You know, send, it'll go. That money will be transferred automatically. And what's great about that is, say you knew that you had something that was about to come through for $300 and your account's $195. Well, you don't want to be paying any overdraft charges, or you don't want to be paying any transfer, like if Chase automatically transfers money, and most banks have this, if they have to do it for you, there's a charge for that. But if you do it through that text, there's no charge. So it's a great way, and the personal bankers are real good about helping you when you set up an account to identify what kind of alerts you might want. Anyone else have something they like about Chase?
Oh, I take my manager for lunch every 3 months.
You take your manager for lunch every 3 months? Okay.
So it's a great relationship.
Okay.
I mean, I'll tell you something, it's the best investment I ever made.
Okay, wonderful. Anyone else?
I enjoy the online bill pay. I use several other banks, and by far the most favorable. But you know, if
One of those piggy banks? You know what, I don't. I've got a piggy keychain or a pin.
Tamla, you penalized me after my piggy bank.
I did, you didn't get to. Look, you can have another pin.
Give me a water bottle. That's it.
Go.
I'll keep the water bottle. Actually, I give these to poor
Okay.
country.
Okay, to a poor country. Here you go. Well, let me just say, for those of you who don't bank with us, we actually have a special offer where anyone that sets up an account with Chase, we put $50 in your account to say thank you. We give you a free savings account and your first order of checks free. So if anyone is interested, I can speak with you about that, but we really appreciate you allowing us to come in and share information with you about the identity theft, and hope that if you have any questions, your closest branch is our Greenway branch right at Richmond, and I think Buffalo Speedway. Yeah, Richmond and,
There's one in Wesley, and that's closer.
oh really? Because when I put it in, it comes up, I think it came up as Greenway, as being the closest.
Well, it's the same area.
Probably same.
Yeah, but Wesley's,
Almost.
I think, 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, either way, you have close branches. They're definitely willing to help you. Our branch managers are definitely there, but our personal bankers are a great feature that we have. The online banking, you can also do a lot if you have a smartphone. Does anybody in here have a smartphone? Everybody? Yeah. So if you have a Droid or an iPhone, the only thing it won't do is shoot money out of it. Everything else you can do. You can take a picture of a check front and back and to make a deposit. You can do online bill pay. You can do what I love, which is quick pay. I pay my babysitter that way. I never carry cash. All I have to have is the email address and the amount I want to send. Actually, I just sent my little cousin graduated from high school in Chicago. I sent him information. Yes, sir.
The quick pay, that sounds an awful lot like PayPal, so that's very similar.
It's very similar. What I like about it is the person, all they have to do, they get an email and then they go online and accept it. So yeah, it's great. I love it. My babysitter, I mean, she banks with Chase, so she gets the money immediately, but you don't have to bank with Chase to receive a quick pay from a Chase customer.
I hear you talking about your debit card. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I have never used a debit card in my life, and funnily, I have not ever used an ATM machine.
Really?
Never.
That's great.
But the thing is this, I use credit cards extensively, and I travel the world on miles. I never, because why should I use a debit card when I get miles, free miles, on my credit card?
Right.
So all my electricity bills, everything is paid off a credit card.
Right.
And I rack up enough
Well,
money.
a lot of people do that. Do you have a Chase Freedom card?
Oh, I have about 6 Chase cards.
So the
one
Chase
by-
Freedom card has no annual fee, and a lot of people actually use that to pay their bills, and then they get all their points, and then they just pay it off.
phenomenal.
You want to get a? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Where are the presentations? You said you had some presentations. I shop at Amazon all the time. I hate going to the mall.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a Chase Amazon card.
There you go. Yeah, I used to have one. I took it for the discount of shipping, that's all.
Exactly.
I don't use it afterwards.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right, have a great afternoon.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take that little handout.